Welcome to this podcast. I'm your host, Zach Schwartz, and today it's a nice Thursday here in Orlando, Florida, just before we're getting to UCF's spring break here, which means it's a perfect time to talk about the coronavirus. I want to go over some numbers of the coronavirus first. So, since the coronavirus has broken out from China, there have been about 96,000 cases and 3,000 deaths, and that's roughly a 3% kill rate based on infection, which frankly is high. That's higher than SARS, the amount of deaths are. However, the death rate is not. SARS in early 2000s. And if you're a little young and you don't remember that, go look it up because that was a similar epidemic that was terrifying. Was about 10%. So this is very serious, I want to say. It's serious that it needs to be taken care of by national health officials, which it is being done. However, people are overstating this, and it's getting on my nerves, and I want to talk about it now. Because there are things that are happening now that have shown me that this is just going too far. The media is hyping this up, not hype in a way because it's very sad, and rest in peace to everybody that's died from this, and my thoughts and feelings go out to those that have been affected by this, because once again, it's a sickness, it's horrible, and the families that are affected, it's very sad. But the flu killed 20,000 people from October 2019 to February 2020 in a span of 5-6 months. Up to 46,000 people just in the U.S. And people aren't talking about the flu. People are talking about only coronavirus. In fact, I want to go from least serious thing to the most serious thing about how this has been so ridiculous. The beer, Corona, which if you are in any way somewhat educated, you should know. Viruses don't relate to beers whatsoever. And yet Corona sales are down 38%. Which, as the Corona CEO, I wonder what he's doing in his office. How upset he is because some scientists named this the coronavirus. Because it's ridiculous that 38% is down like that. Next thing. The selling out and buying of masks. Now, surgical masks are good, right? They help prevent transmission of disease in certain ways, right? You can't cough, obviously, and cough on someone if you're wearing a mask. You have a runny nose. You can't sneeze on someone like that, right? But if you're healthy and you're wearing a mask, as many people are, because presumably you're buying a mask because you think it can prevent yourself from being sick, because if you were sick, you would go into the doctor's office and get a mask there, correct? Okay, we can agree on that. No one's here to disagree or anything, so we're going to agree. Masks don't help you if you're healthy, because viruses, which the coronavirus is, it's in the name, are measured in nanometers, which means it can get into you anywhere in your body, okay? It can. It doesn't matter if you're wearing a mask, because it can get into your toenails, it can get into other areas of your skin, it can get anywhere it wants, okay? Because it's that small. So masks don't help, and in fact, they're preventing hospitals and other places who need them to get masks that they need for these kind of surgeries, and for health professionals who desperately need them in hospitals where sick people are around. So that's ridiculous. This new checklist thing that's happening, right? People are posting all these checklists, and I found one today, and I'm going to read it off to you, because if a checklist is going around, correct, you would think a checklist would be helpful for something, right? There'd be new protocol, right? So that makes sense that there's checklists going around. Okay, so maybe there's new guidelines for the coronavirus that we need to follow because there's a specific way that you get infected by it, right? Wash your hands frequently. Okay? Do that every day, but okay. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. I think it's a pretty good way of not getting sick, personally. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Your eyes, nose, and mouth are the most common place for you to get infected, so yeah, Nothing specific to coronavirus yet, by the way. Cover your cough or sneeze with a tissue. Seems like pretty basic thing there. If you have fever, cough, or difficulty breathing, seek medical care. And listen to your doctor and stay home when you are sick. There's nothing in there that talks about coronavirus at all. So basically, the way to get coronavirus is to do what you should already be doing. And in fact, if you look at these kind of numbers, right, 96,000 cases, 3,000 deaths, it's very similar to the transmission of a common cold. Does anyone freak out about the common cold during the year? The answer is no. It kills slightly more people than the common cold does. Yes, that's true. Slightly more. I'm getting 6 coronavirus updates a day. You know, when I'm at school in class, I get one every time I'm in class. I turn off my phone to listen. It's out of control. And the last thing I want to talk about, because this is heartbreaking to me, other than obviously the families affected and the people who have succumbed to this illness, is that because it started in China and it's being spread mostly in Asian countries, and now Italy's being hit very hard. The U.S. has some cases too. But I've seen this on a lot of social platforms, and my girlfriend, of course, is Filipino and stuff like that. The coronavirus is not a race thing, okay? And I can't believe, personally, I have to say that. It's ridiculous. Now, I hope if you're listening to this show, you are not, in fact, racist, because I don't want bad people listening to my show, but because it's ridiculous that people are throwing water on people in New York and are bullying Chinese people on the subway in New York just because of this thing. Just because you discriminate, which is horrible, should never be done. It's ingrained in a lot of people, and it's horrible. Just because you discriminate, viruses don't. Okay? They don't. It doesn't matter. Sure, it started in China, because that's just where it mutated. It could have started in America as well. It could have started in Africa. It could have started in South America. It could have started anywhere. And that's why this is ridiculous, and I hate it. And the media reports on coronavirus, but won't talk about the fact that now there is a giant racist outpouring towards Asian Americans. And guess what? It's happening right here at UCF. I've heard it. I haven't necessarily seen it, but I know of people who have talked to me and said, yes, this has happened, and it's disgusting. And it's really shows human nature, and it's really sad that we hype this thing up for all of this, and for what? To get scared? To be racist towards people? To buy things that hospitals need that we don't need? It's despicable. It is. And we all need to move on and chill out. And now for today's show, I will be joined by my good old friends, Thorin Ballerball and Michael Graw, to talk about the Star Wars landscape, including the new Clone Wars season, the Mandalorian's smashing success on Disney+, and the ending to the Skywalker era of Star Wars. Coming up next. Joining me now on the Assist Podcast is Michael Graw and Thorin Bartlebaugh, two of my oldest friends, here to talk about some Star Wars and other things going on in life. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing?
I'm swell, Zach. Thank you for asking.
I'm doing pretty good. Wouldn't choose anything else to do after a long day.
And be on the Assist Podcast.
To be on the Assist Podcast.
The best one around. So, the three of us have been Star Wars fans for a while, even going back to our kid years. And hearing about the new Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7, the final season coming out on Disney+, I think was a giant excitement for all three of us, since we were watching as kids and stuff like that. What have you guys thought about the new season as we're 2 episodes in?
I'm very pleased.
I really like the direction they're going and the plot line with the new clones that they're using.
The Bad Batch.
Yeah, the Bad Batch. It's just an interesting, different take on like the traditional clone army.
Yeah, I watched some of those episodes when they were unfinished, and they were like, they're really like storyboard driven, like cuts, like slideshow almost level. And I was like, if only we ever got that season. And now it's here, and I'm like, yep, this is what I was picturing. This is great.
Right, because I think originally they had a lot of the early arcs, not done, but like you said, in that slideshow kind of early work animation done, and then Disney was it Disney? I can't even remember. Lucasfilm abruptly canceled it because Disney had just bought it. Is that correct? Am I getting my timeline right?
Yeah, I think so. if I recall correctly.
Yeah, the show just abruptly ended, and then, I mean, I know Rebels obviously came out, and there was a whole thing about trying to save it, and now it looks like we're going to get the proper end, obviously. And like you said, I just think the animation style is fantastic. I mean, I know now they're using some actors to motion capture some of this stuff, and it sounds dumb to talk about animation show, being an adult, stuff like that. At least it's not anime. But
at Brad.
But it's just like it's still so cool to see that development. A lot of the actions in one take, like it'll be almost as if a camera's following them going up into attacking or something like that, a droid station, which I think is really cool too. It's a cool spin.
Yeah, I agree. I heard Ahsoka versus Darth Maul is going to have motion capture, and It's going to be amazing.
Wow. So, in terms of the story of the season, obviously it's releasing once a week. So we've gotten the first 2 episodes. It turns out that the one clone trooper is still alive, one of Captain Rex's best friends from the 501st Legion. They rescued him or whatever else, which I also think is really interesting because right after they started talking about that, I went back and watched a previous arc, which I think is also something I want to talk about with this now on Disney+. But I know there's 2 more episodes with this kind of Bad Batch sequence, and I have no clue what they're doing in the middle. So I wonder if you guys want to speculate. What do you think they'll go to after this set of episodes is over and they figure this whole thing out?
Definitely Ahsoka in Coruscant. That's my money's on that.
So, like, coming back?
Well, in the trailer how they show her, like, in the lower levels and shit,
Right. Right, because that's where
how
we
she
left
joins,
off.
like, that ragtag group of people. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. I think this would be an interesting arc, and then obviously have that lead up to the Mandalorian siege, which we know we're getting. They've already confirmed that. They've already confirmed Darth Maul coming back, which I think is really cool. Michael, what direction would you like them to take it in the middle season?
See, I would like them to take it in a direction. I honestly, I'm cool with whatever wherever they want to take it, as long as it does not have that traditional boring, like the boring start. And so, like, I'm looking for the next few episodes to be like as captivating as the first 2. Like, as long as it holds your attention, I feel like, and it like makes sense with the plot line, it's a good season. Because I did not notice. Filler. Yeah, I don't like the filler. I like story. Like, I don't want them to just fill episodes to be like, okay, we're gonna push like whatever 12 episodes out. If they only push out like 8 episodes, I want those to be like good, like kind of like you're reading a book or watching a movie, or not watching a movie, because sometimes movies do that too. But like I don't like the fillers. Like, the story is necessary, but you can definitely overtell the story at some points.
Yeah, kind of like, we'll get to it later, but Rise of Skywalker did a lot of not story and a lot of story at the same time, where it was just a mess.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I think the good thing to your point, Michael, is that it is only 12 episodes, and before I know they would do 20 episode seasons for this type of show. So it does seem like they've, I wouldn't say stripped it down, but they're really going to focus on core elements, which I think is really exciting. So, I mean, part of this still just has a nostalgic feel. I know the next episode comes out tomorrow. We're recording this Thursday night, and I still can't believe it's back. It's weird to me. Still, one thing I want to talk about, we know the last arc is Siege of Mandalore, and that's been something that's, ever since the show kind of abruptly ended, it's been talked about for a while, because we know that Order 66 happens from Rebels and stuff like that, and that Ahsoka fights Darth Maul on Mandalore, and obviously that ties into the Mandalorian, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I'm super excited for this, because I think anything Mandalore is super cool, and honestly, if you look at the Star Wars universe as a whole, to me, the Mandalore stuff, no matter what it is, who's involved, whether it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's something like the Mandalorian, or like it was the Darth Maul stuff, it hits 100%, and there's not many other things that hit 100% for Star Wars. So I'm really excited to see what they do with this. What are your guys' thoughts on that being the closing arc to the season and to the show?
I want to see Order 66 animated, like, complete. I don't want it to be, like, mentioned. I want to see it. And then I want to see, like, at the very end, like, an animation of them, like, literally cutting off as soon as, like, episode 3 starts. That's how I want it to end, but that might be idealistic.
So you want to have all that sadness again. You want it.
Yes. I regret saying that, but I want to see it. It's necessary. It needs to be sad. It needs to be so sad. Because, like, you got all these characters that now you know so much about them. And to see it again, but, like, in a way that, like, emphasizes, how you knew them and everything, I feel like that would be a heavy, heavy moment. Very memorable.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the Clone Wars brilliance is that it's filled with dramatic irony all the time. Like, even going back to previous seasons and stuff like that, right, you see these Jedi generals get so close with their clones. Obviously, I think the big one in the show, because Captain Rex doesn't really apply here, is Obi-Wan and Commander Cody, who, of course, in Revenge of the Sith, ends up shooting him down, and then he doesn't die. But you get what I'm saying, is that they humanize these people, and as they should be. Everyone should be humanized. Public service announcement. But at the end of the day, they were built to basically kill the Jedi. And that's laying over this... That cloud, like you said, Thorin, is kind of laying over this whole thing, and has been. They've always had fun sneaking in some hints about it and such like that. And obviously, there's an arc kind of about it on Camino and stuff. So I think it's really interesting, like you said. And even though I joke, I do think it would be interesting to see that again. I kind of want to touch on that in a second. Michael, what do you want to see out of the Mandalore stuff?
See, I want to see them do a lot more, like, I want them to clear up some, like, ambiguity with the Mandalore and, like, the things that aren't explained within, like, the movies and the TV series. I want them to do a little more diving deep and kind of show things that you wouldn't necessarily know unless you watched the animated series. Because one of my favorite parts about any, like, movie series, like, whether it's, like, the Avengers or, like, Star Wars, I like how you can take a little bit of knowledge from each series, movie, animated, TV, and kind of put that as, like, a base knowledge of the universe that it all revolves around. And I think that if they do more explaining, especially with, like, Order 66, and do, like, a little more, like, things like you wouldn't know that actually happened. So, like, you know what I mean? You get a little more detail in the series.
Yeah, for sure. Because we know some things. Yeah, because we know some things from Rebels, right? That Ahsoka's alive, ends up being alive. Rex and a couple of their clone captains remove their chips or whatever and don't participate in Order 66. And like you said with the Mandalorian, like, They talked about the Siege of Mandalore and all that stuff, and I figured it was an Empire thing. I guess there is part of the Empire's a separate thing, but when they show flashbacks to the Mandalorians' childhood, it's super battle droids, which I didn't realize. So I think it'll be cool to see something like that in the animated form. Touching on Order 66, Thorin, you mentioned you definitely want to see this, and Michael, I want your thoughts too. Do you want to see it in the same kind of way? It was if you remember in episode 3, sadly, it was a montage of a bunch of different Jedi being killed. Rest in peace, Plo Koon, my favorite as a child growing up. Do you want to see something like that, or do you want to see kind of longer takes with more specific people and from different views? We've gotten a little bit of a hint that maybe we're going to get different like locations of scenes we've already seen in a way with holograms and stuff like that. Right. What do you think would be the best way for that?
Honestly,
it'd be good in between, if that makes sense. Like, recreate scenes that we've already seen, but like expand on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what do you think? I agree with that. Yeah, I think it would be cool to see more of like how it plays off, because in the movies you just see like, oh, hologram, boom, shoot down the Jedi, and like some of them are like really, really quick, like not even 15 seconds. And I think it would be cool for them to kind of go a little more, because you don't even necessarily see how these Jedi are, like, where they're at or why they're there or why they're surrounded by these people. So I feel like giving a little more detail and background information while still holding, like, the key emotional part of Order 66 would definitely make it a lot more enjoyable. But again, that's, like, really hard to do with a series that's only what is it, 20 minutes long for each
like
episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's a lot of, like, detail to put into a half-hour episode.
Well, I feel like they'd have to make the last episode like 40 minutes long or something, right? Like that would be a necessity to me, or at least a 2-part thing. But I don't want that 2-part to take up 2 episodes out of the limited amount we're gonna have anyway. Like I feel like the 1 episode should be just really long.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
That makes any sense.
No, I agree with you definitely, because I think, we can dump on the prequels all we want, but I think one of the issues with the second movie to the third movie, obviously in the prequels, is that in the second movie the war basically starts, right? And then the third movie they're trying to wrap up the war by the end of it and get ready for the Empire. So it's like there's not that kind of cleanliness to wrapping it up and such like that. And I think Clone Wars obviously now fills in the gap, because you can kind of see how the wars developed. So I think, Michael, you're spot on with what you're saying, is that it's important because you want to see, okay, why are they there? Well, if we get that explanation, that's like, okay, the Republic's trying to finish out this war, basically, that the tides turned kind of thing. Like in the first episode, we get it, that why that battle's happening there is because that was the Republic shipyard or whatever, and that's why Mace Windu, who's basically the second most important Jedi, right, is there. So I hope they continue that throughout the rest of the season, because I agree with you. The context is really important for a lot of these arcs. So yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah, I also just enjoy the general direction that Disney's... I mean, I know they're pumping out movies just like how they do any superhero movie, but I enjoy getting to see different spins and, like, different insights into the Star Wars universe that, like, you wouldn't necessarily have if it was still... Lucasfilms.
Yeah. Well, like, I know a lot of people flame on the sequels, and, like, there's definitely faults in the movies, and it could have been better. It could have been something better than, like, a complete redo of, like, the original trilogy, like it is. Like, love it or hate it, it's pretty much, it's just telling the same story pretty much. But the shows, like the Clone Wars, I feel like could do the same thing they did to the prequels and give all the context to make the sequel good, because they're really good at their shows and how they pace it and stuff so far. I agree with that.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about one of those ways in which Star Wars has expanded in The Mandalorian, which was accompanied for the launch of Disney Plus, which was a really important thing, because even though I think Disney has obviously a vast catalog of everything from Star Wars to Marvel to now Fox and stuff like that to launch Disney Plus with, they needed a new hit to say, this is why you need this now. It's just not to relive your past. So I think The Mandalorian was really important there. And it was fantastic. It was a smashing hit. I was trying to look into streaming numbers just to get comparable to a box office rating for movies. It's really difficult, I realized. But I know just from news reports and testimony, stuff like that, that Disney Plus is a smashing success, especially compared to Apple TV Plus. So just going over it, Pedro Pascal is the lead, which I didn't know who that was. It doesn't really matter until the last episode anyway. I wanted to highlight it that Gina Carano's in this, and I don't know if you got the Rebel fighter. She's like, I guess the lead actress, and it's funny to me because she's a former UFC fighter. I don't know if you guys knew that.
It. I believe it.
That would make sense.
And
she's built like it.
Yeah, she was in Fast and Furious 6 as kind of like just a person to fight, just because of that. So I thought that was really interesting. Or maybe it was 6. I was right. That they brought in kind of that cast, because there wasn't necessarily an A-list cast for this. Of course, Bill Burr was in one of the episodes, which I thought was hilarious. But
yes.
I mean, do you like The Mandalorian was a smashing success, as I've said. We all know that. what do you think was the most successful part of it, or what made it so successful on its kind of schedule with 8 episodes?
That's an excellent question. I don't know. I like the chemistry through everyone and how he was kind of just nomadic, and you see a different perspective on, a character we've never seen before, attached to no one that we know pretty much. And it's still kind of the classic, like, bad guy turns good, but he's doing it in a way that's like out of necessity or protection that goes back to how he was protected when he was found by the Mandalorians. So he still might not be a good guy, but you can kind of see him that way. Like, you still don't have to look at him like a rebel hero sort of thing, if you know what I mean. He's just a guy trying to make it and protect, people he cares about.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's important too, because I think one criticism, if you want to say, of Star Wars is that a lot of times it's just black and white, right? It's, okay, this guy has a blue or green lightsaber. This person has a red lightsaber. One's good, one's bad. They fight, good wins in the end somehow.
Right.
And I do think I agree with you that this show kind of started out with a guy that, maybe not so good of a place, but in between those giant forces of good and bad in Star Wars, I think there's a lot of underground storytelling there to talk about that's in the gray for people that aren't Jedi, that aren't Sith Lords, that are just kind of like with these big galactic conflicts that aren't Palpatine or Count Dooku or Vader or Obi-Wan or Anakin. There's still, obviously a much bigger galaxy than we can imagine here on Earth. But there's so many other players in this that it's just interesting to give that view of storytelling. So I think it's a great point. Michael, what do you think led to the success of The Mandalorian?
So I think something that that led to its huge success is it gave enough like new aspects. So like nobody's ever seen. To my knowledge, I don't necessarily remember every episode of every single episode, I don't remember everything of everything I've ever seen, but it gives a new perspective with new characters. It gives off like the new exciting vibe, different type of way to tell a story, but at the same time gives enough nostalgia. So like big Star Wars fans like us really can like understand everything, and then when we see like their subtle hints, we can see it and be like, oh, that's what that is. But if you don't watch it, you just enjoy the movie. Like Allie refused to watch any Star Wars at all. And then I was watching it and she saw Baby Yoda, so then she binge watched the entire season. So like it's the little attention grabbers that can get new audience, and I think that's a huge thing. They turned a bunch of regular non-Star Wars fans into some fans that are going to be tuning in for the next season and future movies at that.
That's a good point, because I'm thinking about it. Everyone that likes Star Wars wanted to watch it because of the cool-ass, Mandalorian guy that everyone's like, that guy looks cool. And as soon as Baby Yoda showed up, other people were like, hey, I want to watch that for Baby Yoda. And both groups of people ended up liking the other group's favorite, or the other group's draw to the series. So it kind of just involves everyone. And now,
yeah, it makes sense.
Baby Yoda is now. He's everywhere.
Oh, I know. Well, that's Katie's best-selling sticker, I think. Also, if you guys want to buy Katie Giustiani stickers, follow Yellow Skies, Brown Eyes on Instagram. Look for that. Anyway.
Yeah, I thought she got that taken down.
Well, from Redbubble, but, she's still...
okay.
Yeah, you gotta use the underweb of the internet. No, you just contact her. I should make her pay for that ad. Anyway.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you, though, because I think that contrasting draw is really important, because I know, for instance, Katie's not the biggest Star Wars fan. She likes some sci-fi stuff, but she's not the biggest type of fan like that. Like, she wasn't... I don't think she saw Episode 9, for instance. So... And I was there day one, and yet she finished The Mandalorian so quickly, and I did not. It took me a while to finish it. So I guess that kind of shows what you're saying. And also, another question. is there any company that hits on something so regularly than Disney with cute things? Like, honestly.
Okay, but to also ask that question, is there any other company that has enough money to constantly pour this much into research and development and all of that stuff? Like, there's no bigger company as far as entertainment goes than, like, Disney. And they have their algorithm for what they know. Like, they have the perfect cute little character to funny humor to action ratio to capture, like, a large array of people. Like, nobody else does it. To my knowledge, I haven't seen anything else.
Yeah, they definitely got the monopoly over that aspect, both in the market and in just people that can do that specific task.
What was that called? The baby nut? Mr. Peanut's baby nut.
Oh, yeah, goodness gracious. That was during the Super Bowl, wasn't it? Or something? That was disastrous.
Hashtag baby nut.
Yeah, that should never be a hashtag. It's like a Barstool ad.
Being targeted. After Ice Age Baby, people are targeting Baby Nut.
Sometimes those ad campaigns are just like, how did 10 executives sit in a room and approve this? Like, no one thought this would be a bad idea by the end of it. No one? Really? I
could answer this for you.
Go ahead, please do. Let's take a slight digression.
There's only one executive, usually, that will approve that. So there's one idiot in one room that says, wow, this is a great idea.
He said, send it.
Go ahead.
And depending on how much money it is, the executive probably never saw it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just screw it. Go for it.
Yeah.
That reinforces my belief in our business system. That's good. That's great.
Are you surprised?
If you would have told me that's Barstool's method of doing things, I would believe it, but I didn't realize other corporate people do. Yikes.
I mean, when you have enough money, you just don't care at one point.
That's true.
Well, you care, but you pay enough people below you based on, you give them a certain amount of authority to approve things, and you just trust that you're paying money for a highly skilled person who's going to make a good decision.
Right.
But regardless of how well it works out, people know what baby nut is. I think it was really, really dumb, but people still talked about it. It was trending on Twitter and everything. It's
sadly,
it just kind of shows that to an extent, any publicity can be good publicity as long as people are talking about your product.
Yeah, I mean that is true, I guess, especially in this age of social media and stuff like that. So a couple of thoughts wrapping up for The Mandalorian. Super excited for season 2. The ending scene, I guess, of the season, obviously, with the Mandalorian going off and to deliver Baby Yoda to his people, who I realize we still don't know who Baby Yoda's, they don't have a name, species. You just call them Yodas, which is I'm excited to finally figure out what it is, or if they're literally, because I could see this going two ways. One, where they find his people, or two, where they're just off on an adventure for the entire season and they never end up making it there, or they make it there on the last episode.
Yeah, and then they end it with almost revealing it, and then
stay tuned to season 3.
They'd open the door, and then you'd see shadows of little other Yodas, and then it would just cut to black. I'm calling it right now.
Yeah, well, it's clear that they know how to do that already, because season 1 ends on a teaser with the Darksaber of Mandalorian lore. One of the most, I'd say, cool objects in Star Wars. All of the Star Wars memorabilia, much cooler than Kylo Ren's lightsaber in episode 7, 8, and 9. So,
hey, I mean, his lightsaber sounded really cool. I'll give it that.
I mean, it sounded, but just the aesthetic of it, I feel like I would burn my wrist so quickly.
Oh, another thing I want to ask you guys about, to see what your take between the Lucasfilm and Disney with the lightsaber, and how Like, so in all the original movies, the lightsabers cut through anything. They cut through flesh like butter. But then you have Kylo Ren just stabbing people and just, like, cutting them just barely, and it makes no sense. Like, the lightsabers appear as if they're not nearly as powerful in the new movies.
See, I think they almost feel more powerful in the way that, like, sure, they like burn people most of the time, but, like, and I know a lot of people complain that it's almost like they're swinging baseball bats at each other, but I love
they're
the fact
nerfing
that they gave it. I love the fact that they gave
nerfed it.
lightsabers weight. Because when you see people fight, they're just absolutely just swinging at each other.
They're swinging light.
Yeah, but I love the look of it. I just, like, if you're gonna fight someone with a sword, you're gonna be, like, wailing on each other, and they do that now instead of just, like, twirling around a PVC pipe or something.
And that also reminds me of another thing. More brutal. They added some new superpowers in. Like, apparently you can regenerate health and give your life force, and then apparently you can also stick your hand behind your back and pull out a lightsaber. What is that about? They just pulled that one out of their ass. That was a Disney 360.
See, I thought it was cool, but, like, there's nothing to explain it.
No, because nobody's ever done that.
The healing thing.
Video games have, but then at the same time, it's like, well, how are you going to actually explain that to people that have, like, it doesn't even make that much sense in video games, but they're just video games, so, like, no one.
They didn't. They just did it, and they're like, if you like it, good. If you don't, screw you. We did it anyways.
So.
Yeah.
The healing thing, though, is an issue, I think, in particular. I mean, like, the lightsaber thing is ridiculous, I agree. Like, pulling it behind your back, but, like, whatever. I mean, this whole thing's ridiculous, I guess. The concept that we need another trilogy after the 6 movies, after Luke Skywalker saved everybody, was already ridiculous. But Disney needed that $4 billion. Anyway.
I don't think it was ridiculous.
Can't argue with that.
It's just the fact that it was totally redundant. It went, like, The Force Awakens was the exact same as A New Hope, but yeah.
But the healing thing is really problematic because throughout the movie I was thinking about this, and maybe not during the movie, maybe right after the movie. I don't want to give myself too much credit. If this healing thing was well known throughout the Star Wars universe, which I don't know if we could say it is, like, I'm guessing Rey didn't just wake up one day and was like, oh shit, I can just do this. We wouldn't have movies 4, 5, and 6, right? Because Anakin would have just been like, oh, cool, I can just heal Padme no matter what. And then he wouldn't have looked out for Palpatine and done that whole thing. So my thing is, okay, I can see that because we thought Anakin was the savior, right? Not the savior, right? The prophet, the chosen one. That's what it is. Chosen one. Sorry.
Yeah.
I had a religions midterm today, so I'm a little... religious terms are in my head.
You're taking religion?
Yeah, world religions. Last Gen.
Oh, okay.
Listen here, kids. This is what happens when you get your school paid for. They make you take classes like religion as a junior.
Imagine.
No comment. But I could have stomached it, right? Because we thought Anakin was the chosen one, and then it ends up that Rey's the chosen one, right? And that's kind of what the ending of Episode 9 shows. It shows the balance, finally. That's all fine. If Rey was the... What? For her time, you said?
Balance until Disney wants... time, yeah.
Yeah. But, so if Rey was the only one that could do it, I'd be fine with it, right? Chosen one, whatever. Anything goes. Apparently Jesus can walk on water. Cool. Check it off. That's fine. Whatever. The problem is, Ben does it. Ben, whatever, Kylo Ren, Ben Solo, at the end does it. And that's my issue. Because now you're just saying that...
anyone can do it.
Correct. Not anyone. I mean, he's very force sensitive. He's very powerful, obviously. But you're telling me that Ben Solo is less in the force than someone like even, I don't know, Qui-Gon Jinn or Obi-Wan. Much less Anakin Skywalker. That's my thing. If they left it at Rey, would have been fine. Wouldn't have cared, whatever. This is a completely nerd out thing, but it just bothers me. Because it's such a simple thing they could have fixed, you know? That literally has no consequences. Like, if
I think they're using like their Force dyad, where he can use her abilities.
Okay.
Sort of thing, but they don't say that. They don't tell you that.
That may be true, Thorn.
Or do you think it's related to, since they're basically intertwined together? Do you think that has something to do with it?
Yeah, that's the dyad, I think. And so that's my next question. Can either of you explain to me what the hell a Force dyad is? Because I've seen it, I've heard it referenced. I still don't really get it, and I think we are some of the most, high-level Star Wars fans you can get, and I don't think we understand it. I think that's the problem, is that even common people can't get it. But please go ahead and try to explain it, and the rest of the listeners will appreciate it.
I got you in a way that, like, I played the video games from, like, 2004 and 5, like Knights of the Old Republic, and they both have where, like, they have a Force bond, so they have, like, they can, like, share visions of each other and stuff like that, and sometimes you can feel the pain of someone else, and you can kind of draw off of their, like, Force power, I guess, but they never have.
I mean, I can read you the definition.
I mean, yeah. So it's just kind of like two people really connected in the Force. But also, I want to bring up the fact that Palpatine was so surprised that their Force dyad, like, it's some brand new thing. Like, oh wow, like, you guys are a dyad. But didn't he say he created Snoke, and Snoke said that he made them bonded like that? Or was Snoke just lying? Because
I mean, that would be a plot hole. But yeah. He did say that he bonded him, but he might have been bluffing.
They're probably going to just say that he was bluffing. They didn't have a plan for this entire trilogy. It's obvious.
No, yeah, it's very clear. I mean, we could talk about the corporate higher-up. What is the definition of a dyad before we move on? Because I want to talk about Palpatine.
So a dyad in the Force was the pairing of two Force-sensitive beings, making them one in the Force. The power of a dyad was as strong as life itself, and the individuals who formed a dyad shared a connection that spanned across space and time. It was foretold in a prophecy that there would be a dyad in the Force, which we know had been unseen for generations by the time of the new Republic era. The prophesized dyad was realized within Kylo Ren and Rey. Although they were enemies during the war between the First Order and the Resistance, Ren and Rey shared a unique bond that featured prominently in the lore of Sith eternal cultists during the Battle of Exegol, yes. The life force of their dyad was used to restore the Sith Lord Dark Sidious. So I don't think that Snoke created that. I think that this is basically saying that they were born with it, but they were both raised on different sides from their different upbringings.
So Snoke, they're going to probably say he was just bluffing.
Yes, that's my guess.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. So talking about movie Episode 9 in particular, did we really need Palpatine to come back?
Yes.
Really? Well, I want to hear this take.
Dude,
I enjoyed it.
Did you see the leaks for the scrapped movie script that they had?
The Trevino cut? It was Chris Trevino, right? Or whatever?
Yeah, it was called, like, Duel of the Fates. Dude,
yes.
I know some of the scripts seemed, like, a little, like, wacky, but if they would have refined that script sounded so damn cool, and they didn't revive Palpatine in it. I mean, the movie was cool and all, and I guess they revealed that Palpatine is, in fact, a clone, but I don't know. If you can kill Palpatine and you can just go to a clone body, who's to say he didn't just do it again? Like,
hey, you're spoiling the next their next movie. The next movie that they're going to come out with. Come on, you always got to have a big bad villain.
It's true. So, why do you think this movie needed Palpatine, Michael?
I think that it was a good addition to the story. Like, I mean, granted, a lot of how it became a thing didn't make a whole lot of sense, and it seemed like they kind of just made up Exegol, because I don't think there's any real reference in anything else. But they needed a big bad character to kill at the very end. Like,
yeah,
if they, like, So if that was their best like character for the time, just imagine like who, because they're always thinking like multiple, like at least one movie ahead of everyone.
Yeah.
So like they probably were like, this is where we kind of want to go. So if we use Palpatine here, we can use blank here and blank here as like the next bad guys in the plot line. So like,
well, I hope they did that this time, because it was evident that they did not do that at the beginning of the sequel stuff.
yeah, I mean, I feel like they'll get they'll get their shit together. They usually do. They see the money signs and they figure it out.
So I want to talk about those money signs real quick. So episode 7 made over $2 billion. Episode 8 made $1.33 billion. Episode 9 made $1.07 billion. And that is a decreasing trend.
Yes.
So overall, kind of talking about it, and you could tie this into episode 9 or because I want to make a point with this about episode 9. Did Disney do well with their first trilogy? Obviously, they made, if I can do math, $4.5 billion.
Which is nothing
just in
to
box
sneeze
office.
at.
Correct. So that's giant, obviously financial success. But it was decreasing. There is definitely, I think, a lot more resentment than after 4, 5, and 6. Not as much as the prequels, but we don't speak about those. So even though Mandalorian hit, Star Wars: The Clone Wars is being a hit right now. Do you think Disney did well with the end to the Skywalker saga, and why or why not?
Yes.
I mean, I think they set themselves up for all the hate for sure, and all like the hardships. I'm pretty like it's their fault that it's there, but I think they did an all right job for where they were. I mean, it definitely wasn't like I guess some people say it should never have been made, which that's a fair point. I feel like it should have been made different, but it's all right for what we got. And I'm sure like another series like the Clone Wars will help smooth over a lot of that stuff where a lot of the information is just not given, and they'll be like the Clone Wars where they're like, yeah, this is what happens, and people will be like, oh, okay, now I can watch the movies and actually like follow it.
Right. Yeah.
Hot take. I think The Last Jedi did a better job at expanding Star Wars than the other two movies, even though not really anything happened in The Last Jedi. And in The Force Awakens, it was literally the same plot as A New Hope.
Right.
Hot take.
I mean,
go ahead, Michael.
I think that from like looking at like watching all 3 movies, because like before I saw the last movie, I watched the first 2. I think that after like kind of a disappointing first start to the saga, and like obviously they did really well in the box office reviews strictly because it's Star Wars coming out with like another movie.
Yeah.
But then they kind of went into recovery mode after that terrible. Because honestly, I'm not gonna lie, that movie was pretty terrible. Like I'm not a huge fan of it at all.
Of the 7th one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not a huge fan because they basically gave you a remastered version of like A New Hope.
Yeah.
They're like, we're just gonna make the Death Star bigger and have trees on it.
Yeah, basically.
Speaking of, I just want to bring up a point. That it is disgraceful what they did to the New Republic in the sequel trilogy. You're telling me that the New Republic couldn't just like survive? I mean, sure, that's a bad thing that happened, but you're telling me the entire New Republic fell after that one attack in Force Awakens? Like,
well, yeah.
Bullshit. I hate that. I hate that so much.
Well, it's part of the problem, right?
Everyone just scattered.
Yeah, I get the whole thing that, like, all right, Luke Skywalker was doing this whole thing, and then Kylo Ren killed them all. But it's like, all right, why did the whole Republic fall to darkness then? What the hell happened there? Like, doesn't make any sense.
I think that by doing that, they set up the big, like, the Avengers, everyone comes out of nowhere. Like, they were setting up they set up the underdog story from the very beginning so that they could have that aha moment at the very end when they're like, the teaching lesson that if everyone comes together, you can accomplish something. But like realistically and like logically, it makes no sense why a resistance would be in one place at one time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dude, they could have had that same exact thing where all the people show up, but instead of being the resistance, it could have just been like the remnants of the New Republic military, the people came to actually fight as well. That would have been cool. Like, I was really hoping to see like New Republic stormtroopers versus First Order stormtroopers. That would have been a cool thing to see. Yeah, that's what I was hoping for the whole time.
The other argument, too, is that we've already seen the underdog story. Like, literally, we watched episode 4 as Alderaan got blown up. The Rebel Alliance, was on their last legs with Princess Leia reaching out, hoping for someone, blah, blah, blah. Obi-Wan dies. All this stuff. We like you said, I mean, you guys said it already, it's a remastered version of episode 4. Harrison Ford just takes the place of, was it Allen Guinness for Obi-Wan Kenobi back in the day? Is that it? McGinnis? I apologize to whoever that actor is. But like it's already seen this, and then I think to your point, Thorne, about you're saying that episode 8 was better than anything 7 or 9. It's honestly it may be like kind of a hot take when you say it, but also if you look at it, it's not, because 7 is just a rehash of 4, and then 9 is 2 movies stuffed into one where you can't even breathe during the movie. Like normally most movies.
See, I love that though.
I think it was captivating in the theater for sure, but when I walked out, I was like, wait, like what happened? I think they did the ending correctly, but it's just when and this is what happens when you have poor leadership. Now Disney has always been a great place for leadership, for fostering creativity and stuff like that. But there's been a lot of turmoil there recently, whether you want to look at this trilogy or you want to look at the Obi-Wan Kenobi show that's being produced right now for Disney Plus, that's been set by delays and a possible reduction in episodes. I mean, if you don't, it seems like they promised J.J. Abrams' trilogy, which whatever you want to say about J.J. Abrams is fine. And then Abrams had a different commitment for 8, so they pulled him. They brought in Rian Johnson, who's a great director, obviously director of Black Panther, a lot of other things. And I think that leads to your point, Thorne, is that if you say 8 added more to Star Wars than 9 or 7, you're basically just saying Rian Johnson is a better director than J.J. Abrams, which I think is a very fair point about that. But and then they brought Abrams back for 9, but then Abrams then was trying to do his original vision of what 8 would kind of look like, and you could see that in the film for 9.
They had they basically retold it.
Yeah,
they retold a lot of 8.
Well, because not a lot happened in 8. Like if you look back at it, it was just a small little ship chase, pretty much. That's the only thing that happened in that.
Yeah, there was no galaxy-wide thing.
They really should have made a part 1 and 2.
They also should have just stuck with the same director for a trilogy. You cannot. Yes. I do not like having 3 different styles. Like, okay, have one director do this. One director do The Mandalorian. One director do another spinoff of a different character, and then have the trilogy be done by the same person. So the uniform vision, it's not just 3 vision. It's not, because how many directors were there? 3 unique ones or just 2?
There were 2, but I think for the 3rd movie they had a different guy first and then replaced him with Abrams, right? So it was originally going to be 3.
Yeah, and see, you can't have that. It's the same thing with anything. If you tell me, you, and Thorin, if you tell us, each draw what you think, or each write out where you think the plot line should go, here's general rules for episode 1, 2, and 3, make a connecting storyline, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I feel like it would have been better, though, if they would have just did the 3 different people instead of going, one person to the next and then back to the first. Because, you said, you can see the conflict and you could almost tell that he wanted to like get back at Ryan and like switch it back to him, and it's like, no, you can feel it in the movie that he did not like what episode 8 was. You could like Michael, you said he just retold it to make sense with his now, but then curve it down his way. Like, dude, I knew as soon as like the opening scene where apparently that's Mustafar that he's on.
Yes, it is.
And he was on there for like 5 seconds, and then he left. And like the movie is like acting like so much just happened right there, and you should know all this stuff, and then it just zips to the next place. I was like, oh, this is what the movie's going to be, and it didn't let up the whole time, which is cool and all. But like that could have been stretched out over 2 movies, and you could have had those slow moments of impact. That should have been, that whole movie could have been totally fine the way it was. Just make the scenes longer.
Yeah, give some more like the whole thing with Rey discovering that with the lightning scene, for instance, where she thinks she killed Chewbacca, whatever. It's like 15 minutes until we find out Chewbacca's alive. There was no emotional stakes in there whatsoever. And of course, you can't make the movie itself longer because then it was already pushing 2.5 hours. So it's like,
dude, my biggest example of that is when Rey meets that like dark version of herself, and it lasts like 5 seconds, and then it's over, and you're like, wait a second, no, that would have been great for her to be like self-reflecting on stuff, like, wait a second, go back. That would have been so cool to see more of.
Yeah, those are the type of scenes that in the original trilogy, like Luke Skywalker meeting the Force thing of Darth Vader in the cave at Dagobah, that really resonate with you and stuff like that. But it, like, that really, you see the character development there, and it just wasn't there in this movie. And I think it was really frustrating. The other thing I think that you guys point out is about the overall direction of it, and there needs to be a guideline. It's ironic. The model to do that is Marvel, right? Because, which is obviously owned by Disney. You look at, first of all, we're all Marvel fans. I think we all loved Avengers Endgame and Infinity War and all that stuff. The collection of everything. But if you look at it, outside of the Russos, who did the 4 biggest movies, or 4 of the bigger movies they've had, Marvel consistently brings in different voices, brings in different people to do their movies, but you can see how it all fits into the timeline, into the message of what they're doing, So you can have a really cool take of Black Panther, the first African superhero we have from Africa, African superhero we have in there. You could have a 3-part thing from Jon Favreau, who actually directed The Mandalorian, which is crazy. With Iron Man being the tech guy, you could have a World War II movie with Captain America. You could have a giant superhero movie. You could have a Civil War movie.
And it all fits in perfectly. Well,
exactly.
Maybe not perfectly, but like pretty seamlessly. Like, I'm always very satisfied after watching a Marvel movie.
Yeah, yes. And you're like, yeah, that made sense. I can see how that happened. No big. Even if you didn't like the movie's contents, you could be like, yeah, it made sense anyway.
Yeah, you don't see plot holes, you don't see this or that. So it's just frustrating when something, like Star Wars, that's literally under the same parent company, and they don't get that. So, yeah, I hope for the other projects, like I said, it seems like they rebounded with The Mandalorian and Clone Wars, that they figured this out a bit more. Because they also they struggled with Solo, too. We don't have to talk about Han Solo, but that movie obviously went under its own.
That movie.
Well, I'm just saying beforehand, there was a lot of issues in production and such. So,
yeah.
Last thing we'll get to, because we're already at 50 minutes, which is awesome, is the High Republic announcement. So this came out a couple days ago. It goes back in time. It is 200 years before the Skywalker saga. Also, real quick, we should call this the Palpatine saga, right? Rey's not really a Skywalker.
For real, dude. Also, I want to point out that Rey and Ben had their little love moment, and here's the thing: is that I don't know. From what I hear about theories and stuff, Palpatine pretty much created Anakin with his old master and stuff.
Yes,
they were making life. So, if Palpatine had a son, but he also made Anakin in an indirect way, I guess, and both of their kids fell in love with each other. that seems kind of, Alabama to me. And, like, is Rey taking the Skywalker name as like an adopted name from Luke and Leia? Or is she taking it from
That's what I got from that.
Because if she's taking it as an adopted name, then she's basically saying that she's Kylo's sister. Even though, you know what I mean?
We love a good incest is wincest.
Hey, well,
I'm just very concerned.
Hey, it's a rehash of the original trilogy, right? Luke and Leia kissed, and then they found out they were sisters or siblings in the next movie. So who knows? That's a good point, though. I didn't even think about that. There you go. Star Wars
things that keep me up at night.
Incest. There you go. Yeah, Star Wars is huge in West Virginia. I just heard actually. So there you go. But yeah, so the High Republic now we're going. Here. We're going back in time, 200 years before. It'll be the first set of novels will be released in August of 2020, and I assume there will be a lot of shows, movies, stuff like that. That is where they are going in the next direction. It was kind of cool that they took us behind the scenes of the story building and stuff like that for that. I'm sure they don't want us to see J.J. Abrams yelling at each other that Rian Johnson sucks for episode 9. that storyboard wouldn't be as interesting. But what do you guys think about this? Because I don't know too much about the Old Republic. I haven't really played the video games. So those are a really popular video game that's out. I haven't really dove into the literature. So there you go, Thorin. Lead it off. What can we expect?
I mean, I don't know, because the Old Republic was set like 4,000 years before. Oh. And this is set 200. So, I mean, 4,000 years ago, like, it's cool because it's all like, it's so old and ancient, and you can, I don't know, it's like a whole different world. But I don't know. My biggest concern with the High Republic is I don't know if 200 years is far enough back, because, apparently, like, the Sith had been hiding for 1,000 years by the time of Palpatine. So there's not going to be any Sith in this, which in the Old Republic there was a ton of Sith, and it was really cool. So I don't know how they're going to do it. I'm just very, like, skeptical, because I want it to be cool, because I like old ancient stuff. But 200 years just does not seem ancient. Even in Star Wars, where anything can happen. It's just like, I don't know. Yoda's still pretty old at that point.
You beat me to it. I was going to say,
so I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. What can you do that's so important that won't have any, that will be forgotten in 200 years? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Michael, your thoughts?
That's my concern.
I have not heard anything on it, actually. I've been pretty much consumed by everything that's going on right now. I haven't been able to do a whole lot of digging and watching and researching.
Tell him you don't have time to actually be a nerd. Nerd.
No, I work. I wake up at 6:20, don't get home till 5, and then have an online class. And I also have to plan multiple events a month. It sucks.
Wow, he pulled the work card on us, Thorin. He pulled the adult card.
Dude, being an adult's kind of rough.
Kind of.
You feel old.
Yeah, I do feel old.
But yeah,
sorry,
I do wonder.
Can't come out with the wife and kids.
Oh my goodness. Oh wait, that was a good one. Yeah, I wonder if Yoda's gonna be around, because he'll be like 600 at that point. So
yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if it's far enough back. Like, there's still going to be a lot of connections to the modern age, I guess.
Yeah.
You know?
Who knows? It'll be interesting. I'm just glad we're not going to get another movie of... I don't know. If we had another movie set like the sequels, would it be a remastering of Episode 7 or a remaster of Episode 4?
I don't know.
That's the question.
Because she's in the exact same point that Luke was in Episode 6. Like, the exact same point. So,
correct.
Like, they're going to tell it, and they're probably going to do what they should have done with the sequel trilogy in general in the first place, and they're going to be like, yeah, there you go. And it's like, well, okay. What, like, why? Why didn't you do this the first time around? I'm betting that's going to be people's reactions.
There you go. Star Wars Episode 10, The Force Awakens for real this time. Releasing in 2025.
Awakens.
Awakens. I don't know. Do you guys have any closing thoughts on anything we've talked about tonight?
I mean, I will always love Star Wars, love-hate relationship in a way. And I guess I don't really care about it that much. You know, they're going to be cool. It's just like, come on, Disney. You know you're better. But I can't wait for Mandalorian, or the Mandalorian season 2. Can't wait until my heart breaks again with Order 66.
Me too.
Now it's just a waiting game until when that happens.
Me too, for sure. I have one more question, and then we'll get out of here, because now we're at an hour. I was thinking about this the other night, as I was finishing The Mandalorian, because it took me a while to finish. Is there a name that, when you really think about it, that is dumber than Star Wars? Like, could you imagine, like, you're sitting there, like...
Star Trek.
Like we said, I mean, apparently Michael ruined this for us with production meetings, how they actually work. But if you're sitting there and you're like, I have a name for our awesome new tech, like, sci-fi movie. Like, what's it going to be? Star Wars. Why?
It's War in the Stars, dude.
War in the Stars. It's like, that's it. But brilliant, Simon. Right? Am I wrong?
Like, whoa. They probably played around with Space Wars, too. Guaranteed. Spaceballs.
That's a movie. That is a great movie.
Shout out to Spaceballs.
That's right. And well, with that, gentlemen, may the Schwartz be with you. Thank you for coming out, guys. It was a ton of fun.